Happy to say, great. You guys are really lucky to have really the best MC in the market today with Mr. Work on. Guys, very, very excited to be with you all today. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next couple of minutes to really talk about how we're going to bring crypto to the masses. I cannot promise we're going to answer all the questions today, but I promise you it's going to be interesting, insightful, and hopefully very educational as well. And I'm very lucky today. We're really with the dream team of folks to talk about the topic today. I'm, of course, Michael Sholov. Many of you know him as the CEO and co-founder of Fireblocks. For those who don't know, it's an enterprise platform to manage digital assets operations and build innovative businesses on the blockchain. Fun fact about Fireblocks, by the way, they have over 2,000 institutional clients. They've secured the transfer of over 6 trillion in digital assets and created over 200 million wallets. Fun fact, by the way, about Michael, when he's not the CEO of Fireblocks, he's an avid snowboarder and a massive fan of heli snowboarding. So here we go. Talk about the BCP risk there, Michael, huh? But very excited to have you on board with us. Then we have Mike Silagadze from Etrify. Mike is the first ETH staking protocol that allows stakers to maintain full control of their keys to the entire staking process, making it the only truly decentralized liquid staking platform. We're going to cover a lot of topics around that. Fun fact about Mike, by the way, he's a pilot in his spare time. He flies a Cyrus plane, which is, here we go, good way of having it on board. And last but not least, of course, we have Raj Brambat from Zebu and the decentralized liquidity protocol that has crossed $4 billion in invoice settlements, transforming institutional payments and settlements. One fun fact about Raj, I have to say, as an Armenian, I love that. He's a massive chess player. So if you look at competitive chess, he's the guy to play with there. Raj, great to have you on board with us today. So today what I want to do, I want to cover various topics that we're going to go to bring crypto to the masses. And I'm going to cover them one by one. And when I name it, first, I want you guys to give me a probability from 1 to 10. 10 being that could be the killer app that we're going to hit the billion users. And then we'll discuss each one of them one by one. Let's start. Michael, I'm going to start with you, first of all, on tokenization. It's a big topic, RWA. There's obviously a lot of activity at the conference about tokenization, RWA. Before that, 1 to 10, what's the chance that tokenization becomes the killer app that we have?
Easy 9.2.
9.2, wow, very detailed.
6.
6? Well, okay. Michael?
9.
9. So what is that? What do you think we have a big chance with that being the killer app?
Look, I think that first of all, the infrastructure for financial products, as we know, the traditional infrastructure is outdated. It's not compatible with the internet. It's expensive. And basically operating it on the blockchain by tokenizing, first of all, traditional financial assets, and more so some of the newer assets like NFTs, points, creating new experiences. I think that there is a high probability that, and also like a very high conviction, by the way, from most practitioners that this is going to happen. I think it actually plays well together with some of the other topics we're going to talk about today. But I think the conviction and basically like the delta between and the 10x sort of experience that we're going to get from cost, speed, accessibility, distribution, and so on from this, I think it really makes a good case for tokenization to become one.
But Michael, we've been wrong, right? I remember myself even going on TV in 2019 saying it's the year of security tokens or tokenization. Often we had a problem with the issuers and the demand. What do you think now is different on tokenization?
Well, yeah, I think let's take I think one of the assets that are really picking up, which is money market funds, right? And
treasuries.
Yeah, treasuries basically. And it basically went from zero, literally almost zero, to $2 billion from the beginning of the year. And I think, from my perspective, when I look back, and I think there was a conviction back in 2018 that it's going to happen. But I would say that the biggest thing was, do we have the quality assets, right? And what we are seeing right now is that the most reputable asset managers like BlackRock and WisdomTree and all those guys are stepping in and creating those assets. So clearly we have reputable assets coming in, and that sort of starts really A, to create the ecosystem, and B, we actually have use cases. So we're going to talk about stable coins. We're probably going to talk a bit about trading. So think about the combination of stable coins, how do you generate yield through treasuries. Clearly, talk money market funds and other assets, it makes the case. So I'm not arguing that it's going to be 9 in the next 12 months, but I think that the direction of travel over the next 5 years, especially as the regulation will catch up, is pretty strong.
I want to talk to you, Mike, about DeFi, but why is 6, by the way? Why are you not that bullish, quickly?
Well, so I don't disagree with anything that Michael was
You're
saying.
just less bullish.
Yeah, well, I think maybe it is a time horizon thing. Like, is that going to be the thing that, in the next 6 months brings 1 billion users on chain? I just have a hard time seeing that.
Okay, so let's talk about DeFi now, talk about chain. I remember really at the beginning of COVID, we had less than 1 billion in TVL in DeFi, and now obviously we're at pretty, multiple times that amount. DeFi, could DeFi be where we bring the crypto to the masses? 1 to 10.
I'd say 8.5.
8.5. You're very detailed on your predictions. Michael?
I'll take the 6.
6, here we go. Mike?
That's a hard. I probably would also say 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So why is that? What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, DeFi is not usable, right? Like, if you think about going from 0 to doing even the first most basic transaction as a normal human being, figuring out a hardware wallet or a browser extension, seed phrases, signing approval, the whole thing is insane. I mean, it's completely insane. Multiple times a week, I'll have to spend hours with friends trying to explain to them how to, borrow some stables on Aave, and it's always an ordeal. And I think to some degree that's always going to be the case because it's a pretty in-depth process. So DeFi in and of itself, I don't think is going to bring 1 billion users to crypto, but some sort of wrapper that perhaps a company like EtherFi is building might. But DeFi in and of itself, I think, is way too nerdy.
Users are coming to use EtherFi. They're not having the same issues because they have you're able to have a good UI and actually not have these issues, basically.
Well, that's our goal. Yeah, I mean, EtherFi is a suite, a vertically integrated suite of products that allows users to interact with DeFi, but in sort of a bubble wrap, easy way, while still getting all the benefits of censorship resistance, non-custodial, like all the good stuff that you get with crypto. So that to us, that includes staking, deploying assets in DeFi, and spending with our new EtherFi Cash product in real life.
I want to ask you about after the staking as well. Michael, why are you 6, by the way, on that one? You're still, you think not the time horizon, or?
No, I would say actually, because of the same reasons, right? I think that the user experience of DeFi at the moment is fairly complex, and I think that at the end of the day, DeFi becomes extremely useful when it be applied to the nines, right? But also right now, most of the utility of DeFi is really around trading core crypto pairs or other things that are inherently somewhat speculative. And I think that just generally speaking, to assume that speculative activity overall is going to be what will take us to the 9th is I'm not in that camp.
Interesting. Third one, this is something we've talked for many, many years in crypto. Blockchain as infrastructure for real-world use cases, right? From reducing costs to enhancing services. 1 to 10. Actually, let me start with Michael, and then we'll come to you. Michael, 1 to 10. Blockchain for real use cases as an infrastructure.
10.
Wow. Mike?
Man, you're putting so much pressure. I don't know, 7.
7.
10.
10. So, well, I guess that's what it is. Why 10, Mike?
I mean, I think it's the 2 topics that we covered so far, right? Actually 3. So real-world assets, DeFi, and then abstracting users away from complexity. That's essentially what we're trying to do at Zebu. We're natively aggregating multiple sets of services where Web 2 users that have real problems that can be solved using blockchain infrastructure come to Zebu to be onboarded and get access to all of these services simply to solve their problem, right? Do they want to download a MetaMask wallet to do payments? No. Do they want to pay $1.09 for $1 of USDT out of India or Ethiopia? No, right? So blockchain as an infrastructure is very important in order to do settlements, tokenizing illiquid assets, and increasing accessibility across borders. But user abstraction and integrated services is the main solution to it.
But when you're selling to Web 2 firms, I mean, often for it to interact with new technology, it needs to be materially better, right? If it's just good enough, the career risk for people making decisions at a telco, for example, is not worth it often, right? And that's often back in the day, we used to think Bitcoin is going to solve all the problems, right? And of course it didn't. How are you overcoming that when you're pitching services like Zebu, for example?
Right, absolutely. So I mean, think about wholesale voice, SMS, and data providers, right?
Yeah.
Their average margin on any transaction is 5 to 6%. Their settlement cost, on average, comes out to 3.5 to 4%.
Wow.
Rendering the entire transaction, nearly useless. So at Zebu, we essentially bring that cost basis down to 1% by setting up local liquidity pairs with ZBU and local currencies. We aggregate, KYC and multiple sets of solutions within the Zebu platform. Fireblocks is actually a major partner of ours in order to enable these services. And we always ensure that counterparty settlement is in US dollar. Right?
Okay.
Because on-ramps for US dollar are very, very expensive, but off-ramps are actually profitable in most
Yeah,
jurisdictions.
correct. Interesting. Okay. It's interesting you're a 10 as well, Michael, on this one. Let me go to the other one. This is a topic we used to discuss again a couple of years ago. Better custody and security solutions. Do you think if we have better custody and security solutions, we'll hit crypto to masses? What do you think from 1 to 10?
8.2.
8.2. Man, I love the tension.
It's a prerequisite, I guess. I don't know, 8.
Michael.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite. So I'm not sure. It's kind of like how do you exactly map it? But
So
9.
obviously, you're in the business, right, of offering custody tech and security. Like, to what extent? Because there's been over $1 billion in hacked this year alone, for example.
So let me kind of rephrase the situation. I don't think security in no situation is basically why people use the technology, but lack of security is a situation in which people stop using a technology, right? So I'll give in my previous life, I was like basically dealing with mobile security and cloud security and so on, right? If our mobile devices will get hacked every second day, right? If your cloud services, AWS and so on, will be compromised, then no one would use it, right? And by the way, you go decade and a half back, right? Basically, a lot of the arguments of why it took some time for people to adopt and trust like AWS was because people didn't trust security, right? So the point is that I think we still have a gap in terms of how people leverage wallets and custody technology, custody and so on. In many cases, it's being done through tools that are built in-house. They don't go through the right audits, they're not being configured properly, right? And then people lose money, people lose trust, people leave the ecosystem, right? No one who lost $1,000, $5,000, $1 million because of a theft is going to continue and trust the system.
Yeah. It's interesting, especially I get a lot of people that get scammed, nothing to do with the technology, right? From the pig butchering to the fake websites and stuff like that, right? So, okay. Another one, you mentioned a gap, Michael. It's very interesting, right? That gap that can actually cause an issue. I will bring it to you, Raj. What about Web 2.5, right? Where we have Web 0.2 that is centralized by the big tech players, and we have Web 3, which is obviously permissionless. Let's say Web 2.5, where we're using AI, VR, where actually maybe we have better control on our data, for example, right? To what extent do you think that could be how we bring crypto to the masses? Let me start with you, Michael. 1 to 10. Web 2.5.
I think it's 10, right? It's basically like the stepping stone here.
2.
2? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that.
10.
10. So what do you think that could be the killer app?
I mean, I look at Web 2.5 as a bridge of bringing Web 2 users to Web 3, right? And people have short attention spans. Most people that don't have a direct significance to a product won't try to use it unless it's super, super easy to do it, right? So that's how I look at Web 2.5, is kind of purposefully build products, services, and solutions that cater to real-world needs. And today, most Web3 solutions are built for Web3 people, right?
Yeah.
I think we're kind of trading services and solutions amongst ourselves, and there isn't much built to bring others on board. So that's actually what Zebu is also focused on, is these telecom institutions that weren't otherwise ever going to look at Web3 as a whole, we're bringing them on board because we're solving a key problem for them, and we're making it very, very easy to do so.
Yeah. The ease of use, I think, is absolutely key. If people cannot use it, Mike, why it's a 2? Why are you so negative on it?
Well,
Negative
here's
on
the
everything.
particular sense in which I think it's a 2. Different ways to look at it, obviously. I think C DeFi as a category, if we think of that as Web 2.0, in many ways actually ends up undermining crypto adoption. If you look at some of the most popular cases of quote unquote crypto users where they interact through some centralized platform, the behavior that those users are engaging in most cases, gambling, speculation, has nothing to do with crypto, right? Like let's say they're trading tokens on some exchange. You could jumble the letters, of the tokens. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with crypto. They're just clicking a button on a screen and gambling. And that usurps the actual concept of like what crypto was supposed to be about, stateless currency, unstoppable money, and turns it into basically a giant casino with crypto being, this irrelevant sort of window dressing. So I think you almost have to make a hard stance and say, look, it actually has to be crypto. You actually have to have self-custody. You actually have to be able to have censorship resistance. If you don't have that, then like, what's the point? Why are we doing all this? Just run it all on one giant database and call it a day.
But I would argue, Mike, in that sense, we're losing a lot of people. Like my lovely mom barely can use a centralized exchange, let alone.
But she shouldn't have to care. She should just be able to use an app, and it's beautiful and it's simple, but no one can steal her money.
But you don't call it. I think this is like Web 2.5. What you're describing.
Well, okay, maybe we're talking nomenclature. I'm talking about something where it's basically a centralized product, but it's called crypto. Okay, I own crypto through an ETF. Like, do you own crypto? No, you own a ticker in.
No, that's not. But yeah, I don't think that's how we define the Web 2.5. I think this is actually like for me, Web 2.5 is exactly what you define. It's kind of like Web 2 at the front, Web 3 at the back, right?
Yeah.
And it's the UX is abstracted so well that you don't know that it's self-custody, right? You don't know that you're basically now using a stable coin to pay someone. You don't know that, but that's actually what's happening behind the scenes, right? And I think that, sorry for stealing that, but like what Telegram is doing with some of the things that they are just like embedding it. There are additional players that are kind of looking at it, so I think this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, if it's if we're talking semantics and we agree that Web 2.5 means self-custody, then sure, I'll upgrade to a 9.
I mean,
Okay, good.
See, I moved him.
And can my mom start using it? That's a quick question.
I mean, at a design level, it's essentially just being self-aware that how familiar you are with a lot of these processes and actions. Most people might not be. Right? You essentially have to put yourself in the shoes of other users, potential Web 2 users, who have never interacted with these products in the past. I think that would be the key solution.
Okay. Next one. This is another one we discussed over the years. Regulations. Is having regulatory clarity going to bring crypto to the masses? Michael, from 1 to 10.
7.
Mike?
Prerequisite, yeah, I don't know, 8, 9.
7.5.
I love that you're. Michael, what do you think? What's your view on that? Like,
First of all, my head of regulatory is sitting here in the front.
it's a 10. It's very important. Don't worry. Very relevant. Yeah.
No, but look, I think that I agree. I think this is like mostly a prerequisite, right? I think that what's happening right now is that in countries where we have regulatory clarity, right, like over here, UAE, Japan, Australia, so on, right? Soon, basically through Europe, we basically start seeing the adoption, right? And basically, people like companies can thrive, investment can be made, and things are moving forward. Where I live in the United States, right? I think that right now we are basically seeing the opposite, right? I mean, no one can basically do anything, and more so, I think that the main issue right now with the US, and I think a lot of people underappreciate it, is how entangled basically the regulatory landscape is and how massive influence the US has on all the downstream players. So hopefully we'll have the election, and maybe we'll see who wins, right?
Yeah.
But we should all be hopeful that things will improve.
Let's see. I think it's a big catalyst in the markets as well,
Yeah.
Let's see what happens on that one. Another one, this is an interesting one as well. On banking, right? You know, before ETF came, we're like, oh, when the ETF comes, everybody will be able to have access to Bitcoin. It's been obviously very successful, right? Like 20 billion in assets, most successful ETF ever in history. What about banking? If banks become more pro-crypto, and I want to ask you, Mike, about neo-banking, but let's say banking. If banks are more pro-crypto, what's your view, Raj? 1 to 10. Could that be killer app?
No, I would say like 6.
6. Mike?
I'm going to say if we replace banks with crypto, then it's a 10.
I'm coming back to that. Michael?
I think like 5.
Interesting. Mike, what do you think? What's your view? I'm going to come back to you, Michael.
Well, what we need are banks that are crypto native. Right now we've got, I mean, we all know what we have, this fractional reserve system with endless red tape regulation, and so you've got a small number of incumbents that are, you know, pretty awful. So what needs to happen are crypto native banks where you don't need traditional banks. You can just operate on crypto rails natively, and I mean, that's essential for bringing crypto to the masses. Without that, you always have this bridge to DeFi. And the analogy I like to use is when you mix shit and ice cream, you don't have ice cream anymore. It doesn't matter, you know, the balance of the two. So until we have crypto native payment rails, you know, it's just not going to work.
But if we have the case, how do you think the shit will react? Like the traditional banking system will react? Do you think we'll have the neo-banking system and banking? Like how would that happen? Like in crypto, you can argue crypto, the way centralized crypto we have in DeFi, there's a kind of harmonious relationship-ish, you know? But you think with neo-banks and traditional banks, they could even cohabitate?
I think it's going to be unstoppable. I think in the same way that it was much easier to regulate a printing press with magazines and newspapers, you know, censorship was a lot easier. And then internet was unstoppable. I mean, you could try to regulate it, but it was a completely different system. So I think in the same way, when the crypto payment system evolves and becomes sufficiently mature, it'll just be unstoppable. And it'll emerge probably in jurisdictions that are more friendly, I guess, maybe here, maybe in UAE, and others. And then it'll make its way, and it'll just become part of the system.
Interesting. Michael, why do you think it's 5?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first of all, and I'll kind of like set the stage. We have about like 60, 70 banks that are our clients, right? So a bit like, you know, pitching against.
And you don't refer them as shit, of course? No,
I didn't say anything. But I mean, first of all, look how far we came without the banks being involved, right?
Yeah.
And second of all, I very much agree with Mike that like and I was making this argument quite often, and I was making this argument also quite often to the senior banking execs, right? That the people that are actually like eating their lunch is like Revolut and Robinhood and Nubank, and pretty much in every territory. You know, when I travel, I don't use Citi and I don't use Chase, which are like the banks where I have my fiat. I use Revolut, and I use Revolut every day, right? And I use Revolut crypto, and I basically do everything within. So it's still kind of like, you know, the CeFi, but they're giving me the experience, right, that I want, right? And they just like, you know, they so digitally native, right, that I think for them to be the bridge into this technology is pretty clear. How Chase and Citi and, you know, and go downstream to like, you know, a lot of the other banks, which they have even more outdated infrastructure, will be able to create something that is a native experience that gives you. So I think, you know, what might actually happen at some point, that they will be kind of the gateway drug, right? Basically, they will expose something which is kind of like semi-crypto, but like, you know, really crappy experience, right? And then we will have a lot of people that will say, wow, this is like amazing. Who is actually the best in doing this? And then people will basically start moving into the neobanks, into like, you know, the crypto native players. That's, I think, what is more likely to happen here. It will take time, but I think this is
It's interesting. I still believe the banking system now is one of the biggest risks we have in the crypto space. If you think even U.S. correspondent banks, there's two banks are doing it. We have issues, and you know, I don't know, Mike. You know, we talk about banks allowing it. Think about narrow banking, where people have tried to have narrow banks where there's no lending, there's no money created. That was banned. You know, like I mean, there's a lot of interest that it's not in their.
Well, the power of DeFi is that once you've got those rails, It's just code,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
So
you
actually
can
that's
just
correct.
you can layer on any number of services. You can launch new products. The whole thing is composable.
Yeah, smart contracts in a way that inherently are narrow banking if you want. Another one, stable coins. If you look at really the volume of transaction we've had on stable coins, I think we're over 140, 150 billion in assets now. Can stable coins be the killer app that brings us to the masses? Michael, I'll start with you.
15.
15, oh my God. Here we go. Mike,
Man, 10.
10?
9.5. That's it.
So what do you think on the stable coins? Why?
Accessibility.
Yeah.
Accessibility is really hard in most markets for stablecoins, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the only stablecoins that I see working for the most part are dollar-backed stablecoins.
Yeah.
And in which case, procurement cost of dollar in most markets is really, really high. Forex conversion fees are really, really high. And you look at India as a market today, right?
Yeah.
You try to go out there, buy one USDT, you have to pay $1.09, $1.11.
Yeah.
So
Boom.
I'm not sure if it's the direct activation to bring on Web2 users yet, unless there's a lot of products built around it to abstract them away from that cost and complexity of procurement.
Michael, why 15?
It's happening.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what's happening. From the beginning of the year, we've seen like 800% increase.
Incredible.
And we're actually able to track it quite well because we have the payment engine, which is kind of like an application that allows folks like Raj to automate some of those things. And it's just happening across all those corridors in an organic way. You see hundreds of companies. I think we onboarded 150 crypto-native PSPs that are taking advantage across. It's just massive.
Yeah.
And that's, again, and maybe like I'll give my personal example, right? We invoice people in dollars as a service provider. 50% of our clients are basically paying us in stable coins.
Interesting.
And the story of how it started was back in 2019 that we had a client that wanted to pay us like $30,000 and he asked if he can pay with a credit card. And I told my sales lady back then, I told her, we are not going to pay Stripe $1,000 commission. They sent us the $30,000 using USDP. It took 1 second to basically confirm. And back in the day, the fees were low, so like it was like 30 cents, right?
Yeah,
it's like 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible, really. Especially in, you talk about payments, but in emerging markets. I can tell you, being based in Dubai, I see what's happening in countries like Turkey, Africa. Absolutely incredible on that perspective. Controversial one now. The next one, CBDCs, talking about stable coins.
Oh wow.
Could CBDCs, ironically, be the killer app? What do you think?
I don't know, 3?
3?
Negative 10.
Negative 10.
I'll second him on that one. Negative 10.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen, obviously. But you don't think it could be a counter effect where actually push people more to crypto, being able to hold your keys and don't surveillance?
No, it's like it's a package deal. It's like it actually ruins. It's like the way they redefine inflation is like rising prices.
Yeah,
Of expansion of the money supply. It's like it actually breaks your brain. No.
So
Yeah, and also we spend with some time with central banks. I think there's still theoretical questions around CBDC that are very much unsolved, like wholesale BDC, retail CBDC. It's also a very cultural question in terms of which kind. Like in the United States, there is no chance you will have, for example, retail CBDC because people will see this like that you invade their privacy,
of
right?
course. But in a way, we could have certain countries, like think about China, big parts of the Middle East, India, where this could work, and others. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another one. This is an interesting one. I'd love to get your views. More crypto education. Do you think that could be a way to bring to the masses? What do you think?
10.
10?
Yeah, 9.
10.
Pretty much, consensus there. Like it's, okay. Interesting. Another one here. More VC capital, more investment in crypto. It's controversial. Michael, what do you think?
Negative 10.
Mike,
which VCs? There's a big depends who it is. Could be negative 10, could be positive 10.
I would say like 5.
5.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Like, why, Mike? Why are you so negative on the VC? I know there's a big spread, right? And everybody and their mom is a VC now. But like,
well, I mean, look, I come from my past life was B2B SaaS.
Yep.
And I was spoiled. Like the investors that we spoke with, the partners, the associates, the behavior that was expected was such a high level of professionalism, ethics. They wouldn't invest in competing products. They would, there was, Chinese firewalls, all kinds of like stuff where you're like, oh man, this is professional. It's well done. And then you come to crypto and you see a bunch of like lunatics, very wide range. Some are, operate perhaps at, roughly those standards, and others are predatory, awful people. And it's a real mixed bag. So if there's more of the good ones, for sure, huge help. It will drive the ecosystem. If it keeps trending the other way, then it'll be bad.
So no offense to all the VCs in the room, by the way. We still love you.
They're now leaving, by the way.
None of the VCs disagree with me either. Even the bad ones are like, that's the game.
Michael, why you're minus 15?
No, I didn't say minus 15. Minus 10. But no, look, I think it's sort of like aligned with what Mike said, and maybe I was a bit harash on this, but I think there is like some inherent issue in crypto because of specifically because of the token model, right? That as a VC you can do what you call like liquid investment, right? But basically you're able to de-risk very quickly in a very speculative way, right? So you're not required to take a long-term view on the project that you're backing, like in equity investments, that you make an investment. You need to basically have a very strong thesis why this thing is going to be valuable in 6-8 years, or at least there is some path to viability of that. And I think what actually happens is that we are seeing a lot of the money being thrown across a lot of different projects, a lot of time like very competing projects, and that actually basically creates misalignment of talent, right? I think that what this industry really needs, right, is concentration of talent on like really quality projects, and basically projects that are aligned with what we are discussing here on the panel. And the fact that you have so much money going around, especially related to quick exits, right, incentivize people to go after the quick buck, and rather I think that, let me just be very controversial, right? I think that a lot of the people that are working on L1s, it might have been much better if they would basically be part of the Ethereum core, and we would just have a much better Ethereum.
Yep. You think we have too many L1s?
What?
You think we have too many L1s, L2s?
Well, you can go to CoinMarketCap and make up your mind.
Yeah, when the product is the token, not the product, you have a problem.
I even have to say, coming to events like these where you see a lot of, let's say, new ideas coming in, very similar to what you guys discussed, makes you reflect on that perspective. Guys, as we're wrapping up the panel, so my best friend, my Bell, is with me here again this year. So I'm going to ask you guys quick questions, and I need 1 or 2 word answers, okay? And the Bell is here to keep us honest on that perspective. You ready?
Yep.
Raj, I'm starting with you. You're here in Singapore this week. What's your favorite thing about Singapore?
I'd say people.
People. What a good politically diplomatic answer. Mike.
I love the Garden City thing. That's awesome.
Here we go. Michael, favorite thing about Singapore?
The weather.
Weather. Here we go. Second one, interesting one. What do you think? We talk a lot of positive things today about how we bring to the masses. What do you think is the biggest risk that we face as an ecosystem for it not to bring crypto to the masses? Michael, I'll start with you.
I think counterparty risk.
Interesting. Well, in what? In trading perspective?
In all the perspective we talked about, from custodial to self-custodial, in trading. I mean, that's what basically took us out of the business 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think it still exists.
Mike, what's our biggest risk we're facing?
Gambling.
Gambling, really? Why is that?
Yeah.
Because the biggest problem with crypto is we have these giant casinos in the sky that rain money, and it crowds out all the real shit. And everything gets replaced with gambling. And that's why, I mean, we're 15 years in, and we're still not even using crypto for payments. The first thing, even that problem hasn't been solved yet, and it's because just the gambling money is just flooding in and washing everything else out.
But a certain token is going to the moon, and it's a Lambo, Raj.
Well, we are using crypto for payments, but
there you go.
I would say lack of user-friendly products.
Lack of user-friendly. Well, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to start with you, Raj. If you're not in the crypto industry, what industry would you be in?
That's a good question.
That's why I'm asking it.
Probably private equity.
Private equity. Interesting. That's pretty Web 2. Mike?
B2B SaaS.
SaaS, like your old business. Here we go. Michael, if you're not in crypto, what industry would you be in?
That's like, think clean tech.
Clean tech. Yeah, interesting. This is a tricky one. If you could hold one token or crypto for the next 10 years, not touch it, what would you buy? Michael?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Here we go.
Ethereum.
Ethereum. Ooh.
Well, I can't shill my own, so Ethereum.
Okay. If you could go back in history to live in any period in history, which period would you want to go live in?
1500s. 1500s.
1500s. Why? Interesting. Why is that?
You know, the Renaissance, a lot of great kingdoms at the time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the history was built there.
Very exciting period. You're right, Mike.
I think 1980s America.
Why is that?
It's just that I feel like that was the peak. It was peak Americana. There was like a shared enemy, Russia. You know, there was like a sense of patriotism.
Well, it's not very different now, but hey, that's a different story.
Arnold, Sylvester. It was, you know, that's.
Michael.
I would agree with him. 1980 America.
Talking about Americana. Go ahead, Michael.
No, because I was like actually Russia during that time.
Here we go. Michael, you mentioned Americana, you mentioned the US elections. The new US president in November gives you a call, makes you a crypto advisor. What's the first thing you tell him to do? I'll start with you, Michael.
Stablecoin bill.
Stablecoin bill. Here we go. Mike?
It shut down the SEC.
Shut down the SEC. Raj?
Stablecoin bill.
Stablecoin bill, yeah. I mean, it's very interesting on that side. If you could have if you could launch a new crypto startup, not the one you have, a new crypto startup, and you can choose any existing crypto CEO or entrepreneur, who would you choose as your co-founder? Raj? You launch a new crypto business, you can choose any crypto CEO entrepreneur who you choose as your co-founder.
Vitalik.
Vitalik Buterin, here you go.
Yeah.
I heard he can sing now as well, which is interesting. Mike?
Stanny, Avi.
Okay, here we go, of course. Michael?
Raj.
Here we go, man. A new company being formed here on the ground. Another interesting one. I'm starting with you, Michael. Elon Musk gives you a call and asks you for one piece of advice on how to make X Twitter better. What do you tell him?
I don't know. Decentralize it.
Decentralize it. Okay?
Stop the bots with the spam. Stop the bots.
Yeah, big one.
Less censorship.
Less censorship. Wow, interesting. And to finish it off, guys, at Token 24/9 on the panel of Crypto the Masses, my favorite question of all time. I'm going to start with you, Raj. Raj, if you could have lunch or dinner with one person dead or alive. Lunch or dinner with one person dead or alive, who would it be?
Michael.
Mike, here we go. Man, the business is flourishing there, huh?
Dead or alive?
Here you go. Mike, who do you have lunch or dinner with?
Richard Feynman.
Richard Feynman. Well, interesting.
Wow,
Michael,
that's a good one, yeah.
To finish it off, who could have lunch or dinner with one person, who would it be?
I'll take Thomas Edison.
Edison, why is that?
I mean, he's like, one of the biggest investors and entrepreneurs combined.
Of course.
Yeah.
Here we go. On that note of investors, guys, thank you very much. It was great being with you guys. We're right on time. A big hand of applause for a panel. And it's back to you, Mr. Work.